The night before the college entrance exam, my handsome boyfriend, my so-called school idol, suddenly broke up with me coldly and without any warning. I stayed up the entire night, unable to sleep. The next morning, I walked into the exam room with a foggy mind and a heart in turmoil. Unsurprisingly, I failed completely. In the end, I didn't get into college. I fell into despair and later died in a car accident before I could even understand what had really happened. After my death, the school's beauty queen publicly announced her relationship with my ex-boyfriend. The top student and the campus heartthrob both had once been mine. Only then did I realize the truth. My entire relationship with him had been a trap. Ryan Miller had approached me just to distract me, to affect my studies, and to give the girl he truly loved, Haley Adams, a chance to rise to the top. It was a cruel and ruthless game played in the world of high school. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on that very same day. The day Ryan confessed to me before the college entrance exam. But this time, I wouldn't let myself become a pawn in that filthy game again. "I heard you like me," I said calmly. "I can give you a chance to be with me. But there are still 100 days left until the exam. Let's keep this between us for now. And after the exam, we can make it public." Those familiar words pulled me back to reality. I looked up at the countdown board in the classroom and realized I had truly been reborn. It was exactly 100 days before the college entrance exam. The same day, Ryan Miller had confessed to me through WeChat in my previous life. Back then, I had been thrilled that my longtime crush had feelings for me too. I hadn't thought twice about the arrogance and condescension hidden behind his words. I immediately agreed, thinking it was the start of happiness. But little did I know it was actually the beginning of a journey that would drain me both physically and emotionally, and give him the perfect chance to strike a fatal blow the night before the exam. This time, that cheap version of a so-called school god would not get another chance. Without hesitation, I replied, "Sorry, you must have misheard me. Opportunities are precious. You should keep yours." Ryan texted back right away, "That can't be true. You've had a crush on me for 2 years. Otherwise, why do you always sit in front of me? Every time you see me, you look down and blush." I didn't bother responding. I immediately blocked him on WeChat. When he realized he'd been blocked, he panicked and started poking my shoulder with his pen to get my attention. The more I ignored him, the more persistent he became, until he was seriously disrupting my focus. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I turned around and shouted right at him. "Have you had enough? I said I don't like you. Don't like means don't like. Stop bothering me, Ryan. We're about to take the college entrance exam, so please have a little self-respect." My shout exploded like a bomb in the middle of the quiet evening study session. All eyes in the room turned toward us. Ryan's face flushed red as he stammered, "I didn't say I liked you. Don't make things up." Before I could respond, the girl sitting next to me, the class beauty, Haley Adams, quickly cut in. "Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Ryan's always been the school's heartthrob, handsome, smart, and admired by everyone. Why would he ever like I?" Realizing she had almost said too much, she froze and looked at me nervously. "Tracy, don't take it the wrong way. I didn't mean to look down on you. I just. But before she could finish her sentence, I calmly posted a screenshot of Ryan Miller's confession in our class group chat. He wanted proof. I gave him proof. The atmosphere in the classroom froze instantly. "Tracy, why did you have to do that to Haley?" Ryan stammered, panic flashing across his face. He jumped to his feet, clearly intending to rush over and comfort Haley Adams. He hadn't even opened the group chat yet to see what had happened, completely unaware that socially, he was already dead. It wasn't until he heard the murmuring spreading through the classroom and saw the mocking, ridiculing looks directed at him that he realized something was wrong. When he finally opened his phone and saw the messages, his face went pale. He nearly fainted on the spot. Haley, after trying to keep her composure for a while, also began to realize how bad things looked. Her expression stiffened as she stood frozen in embarrassment. I couldn't be bothered to watch their pathetic little performance any longer. The cold voice, I said, "How boring. You care about her, and she cares about you. Why don't you two just go talk in private? Why drag me into your little game?" I don't want to waste the time I could be spending studying. Then I lowered my head and continued reading my book. Haley almost burst into tears. Covering her face, she ran out of the classroom. Ryan glared at me like he wanted to tear me apart, then hurried after her. Now that's more like it. If they're such true lovers, they should just lock their hearts away together and stop bothering everyone else. The tension in the classroom finally began to fade. My classmates, seeing that the show was over, reluctantly turned back to their books. Still, the whispers and murmurs continued all around me. I knew the story would soon spread throughout the entire school. Ryan Miller, always so proud of his image, known as the cold and untouchable school idol, was about to spend the next few years living under the shadow of humiliation. Less than 10 minutes after they left, our homeroom teacher, Miss Young, appeared at the classroom door and called me to her office. She had seen the screenshots in the group chat and worried, wanted to verify what had happened. I stayed calm as I explained that I had no intention of getting involved in any early relationship. Then I took the chance to ask if I could change my seat, so I wouldn't have to look at those two every day and let them affect my mood. In my previous life, because I'd been tangled up in that vague, messy relationship with Ryan, my grades had plummeted uncontrollably, from being the top student in the entire grade to falling all the way down to rank 400. But even then, he didn't let me go. The night before the college entrance exam, he suddenly broke up with me, like a knife straight through my heart. I was completely caught off guard. My heart shattered, and I stayed awake the entire night in pain. The next morning, I dragged my exhausted body into the exam room. My mind blank and unsurprisingly, failed miserably. As I wandered the streets afterward, drowning in despair, I was hit by a truck and died on the spot. Not long after, Haley Adams posted photos of herself kissing Ryan Miller on social media, with the caption, "The valedictorian and the school idol both belong to me." Then after, Ryan posted too, "The valedictorian and the school goddess both belong to me." 3 years of secret love finally paid off. 3 years. Then what was I to him? Just some fool he led around by the nose. My soul had drifted aimlessly through the bustling city, hollow and confused, watching Ryan throw his arm around Haley's shoulder and sneer. She thought she could be my girlfriend. She's not even worthy. Look at her background. She can't even compare to one of Haley's toes. It was at that moment I finally woke up completely. Why had someone as cold and distant as Ryan Miller suddenly confessed to me at the most crucial point before the college entrance exam? Because every bit of that so-called sincere affection had been a performance, a carefully crafted act to pave the way for the girl he truly loved. I couldn't accept it. Was my genuine love really that worthless? How could you treat me like that? How could you play with my heart as if it were some kind of joke? This time I wouldn't let anyone or anything stand in my way. I would take back everything that was once mine with my own strength. When I returned to class, Ryan Miller and Haley Adams had already come back. I didn't say a word. I quietly began packing up my books and notebooks. Seeing what I was doing, Haley frowned and spoke up. "Tracy, don't you think you're overreacting? Ryan was just joking around. You don't have to make such a big deal out of it and change seats." So they finally found an excuse to save face. I didn't stop my hands or bother to be polite. "Yeah, I'm just not interested in playing that kind of game," I said coolly. "But if you enjoy it, then by all means, stay and keep playing with him." Haley was so angry she couldn't speak. I could tell she was fuming inside because I was moving seats. After all, she had once shamelessly begged our homeroom teacher, Miss Young, to let her sit with me, because I was always the top student in the entire grade. Whenever I made study notes, she would borrow them to compare with her own, revising and adding to what she'd missed. If I worked through a practice test, she would always find the same version to do herself. Even when I got questions wrong, she would study my mistakes carefully, one by one. Since the college entrance exam wasn't a single winner competition, I never minded sharing. I never once guarded against her. After sitting together for 2 years, her ranking had shot up from around 450th in the grade to the top 10. For most people, such progress would be worth celebrating. But Haley often stared at the ranking board, sighed, and said, "No matter what I do, I can't be as smart as you, Tracy." Thinking back now, I finally understood. Because I had always been far ahead of her, She had come to see me as an obstacle, an opponent she could never surpass. And to eliminate me, she had used the oldest trick in the book, a handsome man's charm through Ryan Miller's hands. And she succeeded. That plan worked only because she had long known that I secretly liked Ryan. No matter how hard I tried to hide it, some things always slipped through. After sitting together for so long, how could she not have noticed? I didn't bother to care about Haley's complicated expression or Ryan's dark, gloomy face. Once I moved to my new seat, I buried myself completely in study. Because of what had happened in my previous life, my current academic level only placed me around rank 400 in the entire grade, a far cry from the #1 position I once held. There was only 1 week left before the full mock exam. The time was too short for miracles, but I couldn't give up. Even if I could only improve by a few points, I had to try. I didn't know how I would explain it to my mom or to Miss Young if I failed again. Our school was a top private boarding school with a strict study schedule that used every minute of the day. Even after lights out, I would still stay up, reviewing under the dim glow of my desk lamp in the dorm. What puzzled me was that Haley no longer pushed herself the way she used to. When she saw me studying late at night, she just gave a mocking little laugh before climbing into bed and turning off her light. Before, if she saw me studying past midnight, she would grit her teeth and stay up at least another half hour just so she wouldn't fall behind me. Now, she didn't even bother. Still, I didn't have the time or energy to figure out what was going through her mind. After all the painful lessons from my last life, this time I only wanted to clear away every distraction and focus entirely on my studies. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, day after day, all week long, I spent every moment outside of eating and sleeping immersed in books like a tireless studying machine. Haley's expression grew worse and worse. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. One evening during dinner, while I was chewing my pen and thinking through a math problem, I was so focused on the math problem that I completely forgot to go down to dinner. When Haley and her little group of friends came back and saw me still buried in my books, they snapped. The loud screech of her chair, dragging across the floor, pierced my ears. "Tracy, seriously. You're skipping dinner just to study now." Haley sneered. "You're going too far, studying like this. Don't you think it's a little too competitive? It's not even feminine anymore. It's not fair to the rest of us." Her tone sounded playful, but I knew better. She was deliberately trying to stir resentment, to make everyone in the dorm turn their eyes toward me. I was honestly amazed. So this was how she climbed her way up to the top in my last life. Apparently, hard work was now called being too competitive and unfeminine. I raised an eyebrow and said flatly, "So what? You think the college entrance exam separates boys and girls now? By your logic, should people who study harder than you all be thrown in jail for a few years?" The room fell silent. Haley was completely choked. She couldn't find a word to defend herself. Everyone around us looked at her like she was an idiot, realizing how ridiculous she sounded. Her face flushed bright red, though the look she shot at me was still full of resentment. Bold, dangerous calculation glinting in her eyes. The next day, I was on the rooftop, memorizing formulas under the sun. When I happened to glance down at the courtyard below, I saw Ryan Miller and Haley standing together in a quiet corner, talking seriously. Their faces were tense, their expressions grim. I looked away, uninterested. But as I was walking down the stairwell a little later, Ryan suddenly stepped out and blocked my path. "Tracy, can we talk for a minute?" "Sorry, we're not close," I said flatly and kept walking. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. "Tracy, playing hard to get doesn't suit you. It just makes you look fake. But you know what? I'll still give you another chance." I stopped and turned to look at him. Ryan Miller stood there with his usual arrogant face, eyes full of condescension, like he was doing me a favor. At that moment, a deep, bitter regret hit me. I couldn't believe I had ever liked someone like him. I'd been blind. Completely blind. To make sure there was no misunderstanding, I looked him straight in the eye and spoke clearly, enunciating each word. "Ryan, I have no idea where you get that kind of confidence. But I swear to God, not only do I not like you, I actually hate your type more than anyone else in the world." His expression froze in disbelief. I could almost see his thoughts written on his face. He probably thought he'd already humbled himself enough, so there was no reason I should reject him. After all, he was the school's golden boy, wasn't he? I figured that kind of humiliation would be enough to make him back off. But to my surprise, he doubled down instead. His face flushed slightly as he muttered stubbornly, "Fine, then let's just say I like you. From today on, I'll officially start pursuing you." I nearly clapped for him out of sheer disbelief, so he really was willing to keep playing this ridiculous, devoted, genius role all the way to the end. Just for Haley's sake. I smirked. "Don't flatter yourself. You think I'd ever agree to that? Sure, if you live stream yourself doing 3 laps of butterfly stroke and 7 feet of water, then shout 10 times during the school assembly, I'm an idiot, and finally run around the entire downtown area naked for an hour. Then maybe I'd consider it." Ryan's face turned pitch black. Embarrassment and fury twisted his expression. "See?" I said, rolling my eyes. No sincerity at all. I didn't waste another second on him. I turned and walked away without looking back. For a fleeting moment, I did consider pretending to accept his pursuit, just to turn the tables on him and Haley later. But then I realized, getting a second chance at life, another shot at the college entrance exam, was a miracle in itself. I couldn't risk everything again for someone as worthless as him. I thought that after being humiliated like that, Ryan Miller would finally have the decency to back off. But I was wrong. The more I ignored him, the bolder he became, fixed-skinned and relentless, refusing to give up. Ryan completely abandoned the image of the cold, untouchable school idol he'd spent years building. Every day, he came up with new ways to get close to me. In the mornings, he brought me breakfast. At noon, he'd show up with fruit juice. At night, he'd try to bribe me with snacks. Sometimes, he'd even slipped little notes into my books. Love messages, so childish they made me cringe. My desk mate told me that during class, Ryan would stare at me the whole time, and that every night after school, he followed quietly behind me. How ironic. In my previous life, I was the one who had done all those things for him. Thinking back now, I could hardly believe how foolishly infatuated I'd been. So desperate to give him all the best parts of my world. But now, I tossed everything he brought straight into the trash without hesitation. All my attention was on studying. Seeing me treat him that way made his face dark with frustration. But the next day, he somehow managed to recover and kept up his fake lovesick act like nothing had happened. Fortunately, in this life, I was completely immune to his tricks. In my previous life, Ryan had always known exactly how to mess with my emotions. Before every important exam, I could never sleep. He seemed to understand my weaknesses perfectly, and always found a way to interfere right before major tests. Sometimes asking me to go out, sometimes distracting me with meaningless chatter during breaks, or suddenly giving me the cold shoulder, pouting for no reason until I was too anxious to study or rest properly. After each exam, he would shower me with gifts and sweet words, like offering candy after a slap in the face. I hadn't had any real experience in relationships back then, so I let myself get dragged along in that dizzying whirlwind of manipulation without realizing what was happening. Even though Ryan's grades were never as good as mine, he had already secured a spot at one of the country's top universities through a national competition award. That was why, even though I no longer let him affect my emotions this time, there was still only 1 week left before the mock exams, hardly enough time to make up for everything I'd lost. Just as I expected, my first mock exam went terribly. Sitting in that exam room, I felt again what it meant to be powerless. The test was hard, far beyond what I'd reviewed, and I hadn't yet organized my knowledge properly. Still, instead of panicking, I forced myself to stay calm. If I couldn't finish everything, so be it. I focused on analyzing the problems carefully, identifying my weak points, and drafting a detailed plan for how I'd review each subject in the coming months. There were still 3 months left, enough time to turn things around, and with the memories of my previous life's college entrance exam questions, I had a potential advantage. But who could guarantee that the questions this time would be the same? If the content changed, wouldn't that mean I'd wasted this second chance at life? No, I couldn't afford to lose again. The only path forward was to go all in. After 2 grueling days of mock exams, my mood grew heavier and darker, while Haley Adams looked brighter than ever. Her smile was radiant, her confidence unshakable, completely different from the anxious girl who in my last life had run around asking for answers after every test. I remembered it clearly. In my previous life, Haley had performed terribly in her first mock exam. She had dropped dozens of ranks and cried for days out of stress. But this time, her reaction was completely different. So different that it made me uneasy. Like something wasn't right. Before I could dwell on it, the results were announced. The moment I saw them, my heart plummeted into an abyss. The reversal had officially begun. Just as I predicted, I only ranked somewhere above the 300th place in the entire grade. From being the top student for 2.5 years straight, I'd fallen like a stone from the peak. The drop was so steep, it shocked the whole school. Some people even whispered that Tracy Summers must have been possessed by someone else. But what truly stunned me was Haley Adams. Somehow she had skyrocketed to the very top, first place in the entire grade. In my previous life, she had only managed to rise that high after her wealthy family hired an elite private tutor for one-on-one lessons. And after Ryan Miller had spent months sabotaging me nonstop. Yet this time, after just one mock test, she had taken first place. Standing before the results board, Haley looked like the center of the universe, basking in the spotlight of admiration. Haley's gaze around her was filled with praise, treating her as if she were a star shining at its brightest. Compared to the moment she'd claimed first place in my previous life, the sense of triumph she radiated now was no different. We used to be equals. Both beautiful, both brilliant. People had once called us the twin jewels of class Roman 7, and our homeroom teacher, Miss Young, had been so proud of us. But now it was as if our fates had completely swapped. I wasn't even on her level anymore, not even the version of her from years ago. The school really does have its own goddess now, someone whispered nearby. She's smart and gorgeous. Haley Adams is definitely the shining gem of class Roman 7, maybe even the whole grade. But Tracy Summers is pretty too, another voice said, just in a different way, more sharp and striking. She's not as soft or pure-looking as Haley, so she's not really the beauty queen type. Yeah, someone added with a laugh, and Tracy's always been the smart one. Maybe she just cracked under pressure this time. If she's really that smart, shouldn't she be able to handle a little pressure? Some people only know how to memorize, but the moment they get in the exam room, they fall apart. I ignored the whispers and quietly left the crowd, holding my exam papers. Back in the classroom, I began analyzing every mistake one by one. I might have been reborn, but that didn't mean I had any kind of magical advantage. I'd taken the exam once before, but no one could guarantee this year's questions would be the same as last time. The only thing I could rely on was myself. So I had to start from scratch, rebuilding every bit of my foundation, filling in every gap. After a while, the classroom door opened. Haley walked in, followed by her usual entourage, girls who orbited around her like she was their personal sun. But what if someone studies all night? One of them scoffed loudly. She still can't compare to our beauty queen, not even close. Exactly, another chimed in. She's just dragging down the class average at this point. Haley gave a demure little laugh, pretending to be modest. Don't say that. Tracy probably just had too much pressure. When you're at the top, the wind always blows stronger. I can actually relate to that now. I glanced up at her once. I then lowered my head again and continued taking notes, treating her words like the meaningless barking of a stray dog. Look at that attitude, one of her friends snickered. What does she still think the school idol actually liked her? Please, she's dirt poor. How could she ever compare to someone like Haley? I stayed silent, though inside I couldn't help but laugh. Losing in an exam was one thing, I could accept that. But dragging family background into it, that was just pathetic. Where did they get the confidence to look down on me, anyway? Sure, my parents divorced early, but both of them were CEOs of their own companies. My grandparents had raised me to live simply, to stay humble, to never let money or status cloud my judgment. I didn't care about fancy clothes or appearances. I only cared about learning. But I guess staying quiet made them think I was weak. I finally looked up and said, "My patience wearing thin, you can talk all you want, but how about proving yourself on the real exam instead? Whoever scores lower can be the joke of the school." Haley froze for a moment, then smirked, her tone dripping with arrogance. You mean based on your amazing rank? What was it, 300 something? Don't forget, I'm the one who won before. And when the college entrance exam comes, I'll make sure you lose again. So badly, you'll never be able to lift your head. I met her gaze coolly, then we'll see who's still smiling in the end. With that, I gathered my books and stood up. I wasn't going to waste another second on her shallow little victory. As I left the room, my only thought was getting to the library and back to work. But just as I stepped through the doorway, I ran right into this young. Her face was pale like she'd just seen a ghost. "Tracy," she said, breathless. "I need to talk to you." I heard something, and I checked it myself. Miss Young told me she had personally reviewed my exam 3 separate times that night, checking my handwriting, verifying my candidate number, and confirming that there were absolutely no signs of cheating, before she could finally believe that the test paper really was mine. After questioning me carefully about my mental state and family situation, she concluded that my sudden drop in grades was most likely related to emotional issues. "Tracy," she said gently, "for the past 2.5 years, you've always been disciplined and outstanding. But this is a critical stage. Don't make any mistakes because of an early relationship." Her tone was tired but sincere. Miss Young was a dedicated teacher. In my previous life, she had also advised me many times not to let youthful emotions cloud my judgment, to always remember my priorities. But back then, I'd thought she was worrying too much. I'd believed that as long as I could balance love and study, there was nothing wrong with it. Reality had slapped me hard in the face for that arrogance. I had been far too young, and the price I paid was devastating. "Miss Young, I swear I'm not in a relationship," I said quickly. "Right now, the only thing on my mind is the college entrance exam. The reason I did so poorly this time, well, it sounds unbelievable, but I accidentally hit my head before the test. I think I might have lost some memory temporarily, so I forgot quite a bit of what I studied." Miss Young's face showed disbelief at first, but she couldn't come up with any better explanation for my sudden free fall in performance. Since the situation was serious, she immediately called my mother, asking her to return home as soon as possible. My mom dropped everything and took the earliest flight back. She didn't even stop to rest. The moment I saw her, tears welled up in my eyes. After the divorce, she had raised me all on her own. Afraid I might suffer or feel inferior, she had poured everything into her career, working tirelessly to give me the best life she could, trying to prove that even without a man, she could still give her daughter a bright future. And she did. But in my previous life, because of a worthless boy, I had failed my exam, fallen into despair, and died in a car accident. I couldn't even imagine how much pain she must have felt when she got the news that I was gone. "Mrs. Summers." "Miss Thaw," Young said seriously, "I understand you're very busy, but this is a crucial period. Your daughter's sudden decline can't be ignored. Her family needs to stay closely involved right now, or it would be a real tragedy." Her words made my mother's eyes turn red. But she didn't scold me for my poor results. Instead, all she showed was worry. Without hesitation, she took me to the best hospital in the city for a full examination. After confirming that there was no brain injury, she made a decision to cancel all her business trips and stay home with me through the final stretch before the exams. "I'm sorry, Tracy," she said softly. "Maybe this is my fault. I wasn't here for you during your senior year. I didn't take care of you properly, and that's why you're struggling." I shook my head over and over, telling her it wasn't her fault. I urged her to keep working, insisting that I could handle things on my own, that I'd get my focus back and catch up. But this time, she didn't listen. After talking with Miss Young, she decided to bring me home every night instead of letting me stay in the dorm. It was a relief, honestly. No more noisy chatter, no more judgmental stares. At home, I could study in peace. With proper rest, my mind grew sharper, my focus stronger. Every moment counted. I used every minute I had to block out distractions. I memorized vocabulary while eating, recited formulas while walking, even took review sheets with me to the bathroom. I lost count of how many nights I stayed up late studying, only to fall asleep at my desk without realizing it. Slowly, I began to revisit the parts of my knowledge I'd forgotten. One by one, piece by piece. Every question I had missed, I redid it again and again until I understood every mistake. For problems I had never solved before, I forced myself to think them through, even skipping meals and losing sleep, trying to find the answer. It sounds ridiculous, but there were a few math problems so complex that I actually dreamed of their solutions in my sleep. Day by day, I could feel myself improving. Bit by bit, step by step. Every drop of sweat that fell brought me one step closer to my goal. Because of that, I never felt the hardship. Instead, I cherished even more the precious second chance life had given me. At first, Ryan Miller still tried to approach me several times, but after I coldly rejected him and threw the gifts he'd given me straight into the trash, he finally ran out of pride. Eventually, he stopped bothering me openly. Instead, he started working from the shadows, spreading vague, suggestive rumors behind my back. Sometimes, during class, I'd still catch him gazing at me with that same lovesick expression, only to be called out by teachers for daydreaming. Other times, when I passed him in the hallway, he'd pretend to bump into me by accident, looking at me with those pitiful, wounded eyes, as if there were 1,000 words he wanted to say, but didn't dare. Even during physical exercise breaks, his gaze would constantly follow me, enough to make girls from other classes whisper. The school's heartthrob seems to have someone special now. Because of him, I often caught resentful glares from a few girls who had once secretly liked him. Their eyes were full of jealousy and hostility whenever I walked by. If this had been my previous life, I would have been flustered and anxious, overthinking every look, every expression of his. But now that I'd ripped off the mask of perfection he wore, Ryan Miller looked to me like nothing more than an empty NPC wandering around the school courtyard. If he wanted to keep pretending, fine. Maybe all this practice would prepare him for a future acting career in Hollywood. While I focused solely on studying, Haley Adams was changing in the opposite direction. Ever since she had climbed to the top of the rankings, she seemed to lose all genuine interest in learning. Every day she acted like a queen surrounded by her court, no longer obsessively watching me the way she used to. Word spread that she had boldly declared, "I'll win the title of city valedictorian for our school." She even bragged publicly that her family had hired the best tutors money could buy, renowned instructors to coach her privately, each of them following a meticulous, science-based study plan designed just for her. Because of that, few teachers dared to question or correct her anymore, afraid to disrupt her so-called perfect system. Her confidence had grown into arrogance. Her eyes carried that smug gleam that said, "Everything is under my control." Whenever Miss Young tried to remind her to stay grounded, Haley would smirk and boast, "I'm just a late-blooming genius. I don't have to study like the average student. Being number one is easy for me." Miss Young was so furious she nearly coughed up blood, but in the end, she gave up trying to correct her. Haley Adams was no longer the same person I'd known in my previous life. Her transformation was drastic, almost like she'd become a completely different person. Watching her confidence, the way she spoke about being the next valedictorian and uneasy suspicion began to form in my mind. Could it be that she too had been reborn? My deskmate told me that lately, Haley hadn't been showing up during lunch or evening study sessions. Rumor had it, she was pursuing the school's bad boy from the next class. Jason Reed, the news stunned me. I hadn't expected that after everything Ryan had done for her, pretending to chase me, scheming to boost her position, she wouldn't even acknowledge him publicly. I didn't know Jason personally, but from what I'd heard from the gossiping girls in class, he was a transfer student who had joined in senior year. His looks rivaled Ryan's, sharp, cold, and strikingly handsome, but unlike Ryan, Jason was quiet and distant. Rumor had it, he used to hang around with people from some sketchy social circles. Some even claimed to have seen him getting into a car with heavily tattooed men. His grades weren't particularly impressive either, just average at best. But later, Jason Reed didn't even take the college entrance exam. He went straight abroad to study. That was when everyone finally realized he wasn't just any student. Jason was a super rich heir, the kind of person who never had to worry about grades or tests like the rest of us. Apparently, his father had transferred him to our school because of its strict rules, hoping to keep him away from his bad influence friends back in the city. I honestly couldn't understand Haley Adams. She'd abandoned a loyal, lovesick puppy like Ryan Miller, only to chase after someone cold and distant like Jason Reed. That was at least until one day I accidentally overheard a conversation in the restroom. And suddenly, everything made sense. "You girls don't get it," Haley was saying smugly. "So what if someone gets into Harvard or Stanford? They'll still end up working for someone else. Even graduates from Ivy League schools work for the Reed family's company. But me, I'll be the boss's wife. Isn't that way better?" She laughed softly, her tone dripping with pride. "Besides, if I become the city's top scorer, Jason's family will be thrilled to have such a brilliant daughter-in-law. It'll make them proud." Her little group of friends gasped, eyes wide with shock, both at how powerful Jason's family really was and how far ahead Haley had planned her moves. As I stood there silently behind the partition, a realization hit me like ice water. I was almost certain now Haley had been reborn too. In my previous life, Jason's true background hadn't been revealed until right before the college entrance exam, when his family suddenly arrived at school to handle his study abroad paperwork. That was when everyone learned he was the heir to a business empire. But this time, Haley knew everything from the very beginning. Not only that, she had already started laying out a path for herself, one even more brilliant than before. Still, fate has its own sense of irony. Maybe because I'd been hearing Jason Reed's name so often lately, or maybe because life enjoys strange coincidences. But just a few days later, I ran into him in person. And of all places, it was at an internet cafe. That Saturday night, my mom had to rush to the hospital to take care of my grandmother, leaving me home alone. Then suddenly, the power went out. With only 2 days left before the second mock exam, I couldn't afford to waste even a single minute. So I packed up my materials and headed to the nearest internet cafe to continue studying. I rented a private booth. It was quieter than the main area, and only used the computer to look up reference material for a while, before diving into my thick workbook again. I wore my headphones and completely tuned out the world. By the time I finished and started packing up, it was already late. I stepped out of the booth and ran straight into someone. The face in front of me was so strikingly handsome that for a moment, I froze. It was Jason Reed. I had seen his class photo once when my deskmate had shown it to me on her phone, gushing about how good-looking he was. His appearance in real life was even more unforgettable. Sharp features, deep eyes, the kind of presence that drew attention without even trying. We didn't speak. Our eyes met briefly, then we both looked away and went our separate ways. Jason walked a few steps ahead of me, but suddenly stopped. A familiar voice rang out behind us. "Jason, why didn't you tell me you were coming here? I've always wanted to learn how to play online games with you." It was Haley Adams. Jason didn't answer. He turned to leave. But Haley wasn't ready to give up. She grabbed his sleeve and pleaded softly, "Please don't go. I have a secret to tell you, but not here. If you agree to date me, I can guarantee you'll get into Harvard." I froze. Was she serious? Haley Adams was really willing to risk everything. Her dignity, her reputation, just to climb into a wealthy family. Even with all the advantages her second life had given her, she was still resorting to desperate, shady tactics to manipulate her way to success. What shocked me even more was that she'd rather share her so-called secret with someone she barely knew than with Ryan Miller, the guy who had followed her every step like a loyal shadow. It was painfully clear now. In Haley's eyes, Ryan was nothing more than a disposable pawn. Jason stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he didn't move. Then without warning, he yanked his arm free and glared down at her, his eyes cold as ice. "Excuse me, who are you?" Jason's voice was calm but cutting. "Do we even know each other? First, don't call me by my first name. Second, if you're sick, you should probably see a doctor." Without another glance, he turned and walked away. Haley Adams took a startled step forward as if to chase after him, but then her eyes suddenly met mine. I had been standing a few feet behind Jason the entire time, frozen in place. "Tracy," she stammered. "What are you doing here?" How long have you been standing there? Did you hear anything?" She tried to sound fierce, but the sweat on her forehead betrayed her panic. I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in getting involved. I turned to leave, but she lunged forward and grabbed my sleeve. "That's not right," she said, her voice trembling. "You never come to internet cafes. You study all day and night like a maniac. Don't tell me you were following Jason. Are you trying to go after him too? You? What kind of person are you to dream about something like that?" Her voice rose to a near shriek, words tumbling out in confusion and rage. Her eyes wide and almost wild. I gave her a cool, dismissive glance. "You know what? Jason was right. You really should see a doctor." With that, I pulled my arm free and walked straight to the counter to pay before leaving the cafe. At the time, I thought that little scene was nothing more than an insignificant encounter, something trivial, barely worth remembering. But I was wrong. That moment would turn out to be the spark that ignited far greater trouble later on. Still, I didn't think about it then. Ever since being reborn, I'd kept reminding myself not to let anything, especially nonsense like that, disturb my emotions or break my focus. Right now, nothing mattered more than the upcoming college entrance exam. The second mock exam was noticeably harder than the first. Many students sighed heavily during the test, struggling to finish, but I felt a steady confidence returning. Compared to the last time, I had improved significantly. Following the study plan I'd built for myself, I was now in the best condition I'd been in for months. There were still a few problems I couldn't solve, but that didn't bother me. I knew that with a little over a month left, I could close every gap that remained. I had held the #1 spot for years in my past life because I'd discovered a learning method that worked perfectly for me. I'd only fallen behind later because I'd let distractions eat away at my focus, not because my method had failed. This time, I was determined to fully reapply that system. After finishing the complete review of all subjects, I set aside time specifically to strengthen every weak and uncertain area. When I walked out of the exam room after the second mock test, students everywhere were complaining about how insanely difficult it had been. Even Haley's usual confident smile looked forced. Still, she refused to back down. Passing by me, she raised her voice deliberately so I could hear her. "I don't even need to study anymore," she boasted. "Even without reviewing, I can still be #1. People can envy me all they want, but they'll always end up under my feet." I ignored her, sat down, and continued studying after a short break. My study routine had become so mechanical that my deskmate often joked, "Tracy, you're basically a robot now. Do you even have emotions?" She didn't understand that even if I was a machine, this relentless grind was a blessing. A chance I'd fought to have again. Not long after, the results for the second mock exam were announced. And once more, the entire school erupted in chaos. I had climbed into the top 100 of the entire grade. And Haley Adams, she was only one rank above me. I could see her staring blankly at the results board, her lips moving silently. No way, how is this possible? She had been so certain that she already knew every question, both for the mock exams and the real test. But she had forgotten one crucial thing. If you stop learning, your ability fades. It's like asking a college student to take a high school exam again. They might not even reach the passing line. For over a month, Haley had been busy investing her time and energy into everything except studying. Many of the things Haley Adams had once known were now slipping away from her. MS. Young called her to the office again for another private talk. But Haley, with the arrogant mindset of someone who believed she was reborn, still acted overly confident. "You don't need to worry about me, MS. Young," she said with a smug smile. "Just get ready to celebrate when I become the city's valedictorian." MS. Young could only press her hand to her forehead, and sigh too, exasperated to argue further. She truly couldn't understand why the performance of Haley and me fluctuated like a roller coaster. So extreme, so unpredictable. When Haley stepped out of the office, it was my turn to go in. Her eyes met mine, filled with bitterness and resentment. "You're here to laugh at me, aren't you?" She snapped. "Don't think that just because I slipped in the rankings, you can look down on me. You're not on my level. I'll still be the top scorer in the college entrance exam. You'll see." I didn't bother responding. Her strange self-assurance only made me more curious. Where did she get such blind confidence that the exam questions this year would be identical to those from our previous life? The truth was, right after I was reborn, I had carefully recorded every exam question I could remember from before. Most of the details were still clear in my memory, at least the major ones. Technically, I could have done the same thing she was doing, relied on the old tests, waited comfortably for an easy win. But I didn't dare take that gamble, especially after overhearing what she'd said to Jason Reed that night in the internet cafe. I'd already started quietly planning a way to make her pay. Miss Young and my mother were both thrilled about my rapid progress, but I didn't let myself relax. After the second mock exam, I tightened my schedule even further. Using both my teacher's feedback and my own analysis of weak points, I built a detailed final phase study plan. Other than eating, sleeping, and exercising, I spent every single remaining minute studying with ruthless focus. Haley, on the other hand, continued playing her role as the effortless genius. First, she skipped evening self-study sessions. Then she stopped showing up for morning classes too. She told everyone flat out that coming to school was a waste of time because she had private tutors at home. And besides, she was certain she already knew the real exam questions. Why bother studying like the rest of us mere mortals? Still, my relentless discipline eventually caught her attention again. The next morning, as soon as I entered the classroom, my deskmate shoved her phone toward me. "Tracy, look, this post's blowing up on the school forum." The headline read, "Former top student falls from grace spotted spending nights with delinquents at internet cafe." The post implied that I had lost all self-control, that I was a senior who stayed out overnight at internet cafes with shady guys from outside school, which supposedly explained why my grades had plummeted from first place to the 300s in just one night. Attached to the post was a blurry photo of me leaving the cafe that night, right when a few blonde-haired boys happened to be standing nearby. Everyone in school knew I had once been ranked first and then suddenly fallen dramatically. So the post instantly branded me as the scandal's main character. No wonder that morning, the moment I walked through the school gate, I could feel countless strange, judgmental stares stabbing into my back. I was furious. My hands actually shook. Before I could say a word, Ms. Young called me out of class.